Hey guys, welcome to the vlog. Today we'll be dissecting Reyner Banham's book, The Architecture of the Well-Tempered Environment. In order to dissect a book, you need some simple tools: an X-Acto blade, a pen, a ruler, some more X-Acto blades for your X-Acto blade, pins, and clips, as well as paper strips to label the pieces that you dissect, and wipes to make sure your work area is clean. Now get a fresh blade, and we'll be cutting to the chapter, Exposed Power. Make sure that to have a clean cut so that the pages separate nicely, and we'll clip these down to make sure they stay in place. First, we'll be cutting out the pages to remove them from the rest of the book so that we can examine them in isolation. Here we have each of the pages clipped together. Here we have the pages all laid out. Now we can begin to take each of the pages and examine them and group them into their component parts of the chapter. This chapter is comprised of 6 main parts. Reyner Banham uses precedents to build his argument, and these fall under the 6 main precedents of the United Nations Building, Olivetti Factory, La Rinascente, Richard's Memorial Lab, Student Projects, and Queen Elizabeth Theatre in South Bank, London. Next, we'll begin to separate the images from the text so that we can begin to have a visual field of images . Once we have done that, then we can begin to group the images together by project. Once they are grouped by project, we will begin to label their date, the architect, and their location. Once we have done that, we can begin to lay out all the images of the chapter into a grid, and then begin to examine our visual library, searching for scale of image. From this, we will develop our visual literacy for the chapter and vocabulary, and let those images marinate overnight in our heads. And good morning, we're back. Now we'll be cutting out the text from the flesh of the book. The reason we're doing this is to begin to understand the text as a separate entity from the image. When reading the text, we can begin to separate the text into its parts, from introduction to conclusion, from main idea to evidence. We can begin to understand the text as different pieces that support an overall argument. And we can do a similar thing with the images of the book, where we begin to separate the elements from each other. In doing so, we'll begin to do what Banham does, talking about the exposed power as being a separate element from the architecture. Systems being separate from architecture maybe begins to become a lot like text being separate from image, and yet the two need each other dearly. With that being said, you can see in the images the separation between systems and architecture. In the United Nations building, ceiling systems were an entirely different style from the building aesthetic. In the Olivetti factory, the systems were seen as a plug-in. In the La Rinascente building, the systems were seen as a skin. In the Richardson Memorial Lab, the systems were seen as massing. In Mike Webb's archigram drawings, the systems were seen as fully integrated. In Queen Elizabeth Theatre in South Bank, London, the systems were seen as a formal language. With that being done, we can begin to lay out each of the examined and dissected pieces in order to be prepared to analyze this chapter. Thank you.